So, good evening, everyone. I hope you all are doing well. I am Vaishnavi, and on behalf of AWS Cloud Club IGRatioW, I would like to extend a very warm welcome to all of you. Thank you for joining us today for what promises to be an insightful and engaging session. Before we begin, I'd like to request everyone to keep themselves on mute throughout the session. You can note down your questions, and we will have a dedicated Q&A session at the end. Now, it's my pleasure to introduce our speaker for today. We are honored to meet Sir Gunnar Grosch. He is a developer advocate, AWS hero, community builder, and engineer with more than 25 years of experience in software development and technology communities. His journey is particularly inspiring because he started as a community member, later became an AWS user group leader, was recognized as an AWS server hero, and went on to spend more than 5 years as AWS as a developer advocate, eventually rising to the position of principal developer advocate. Today, he serves as a developer advocate at Sinch, where he helps developers build powerful communication experiences and continues to bridge the gap between product teams and developer communities. Throughout his career, he has focused on making complex technologies easier to understand and ensuring that the voices of developers are heard by the teams building the products they use. We are incredibly grateful to have him with us today and are excited to learn from his experiences and insights. Without taking any more time, I would like to hand over the session to Sir.
Thank you very much, and thanks for having me. That was a great introduction. I'm very happy about that one. So I'm going to start sharing my screen so we can jump in. See, and there, hopefully you can see it as well. All right, so like the introduction said, I'm Gunnar. I am a developer advocate at Sinch and a long-time member of the AWS community in many different ways. And yeah, at Sinch, I work with our global communication platforms and try to help customers see what they can do, the art of the possible, and basically make things better for developers using our platform. But this session isn't at all about this. Today, I want to focus on a pretty crucial step for every developer, about getting your code off your machine and into the hands of global users. So I want to show you a bit about how the deployment landscape has evolved, and then we're going to spend most of the time just looking at how to actually do this in practice as well. So this is the agenda. It's fairly straightforward. I'm going to talk a bit about some of the fundamental pieces of this. So we can spend most time actually looking at actually building stuff as well. But I want to take some of these core foundational pieces so we are all on the same page about it. And then, as you said initially, we're going to spend some time on Q&A at the end as well, if you hopefully have some questions to me as well. So let's get to it. So let's look at some of the underlying cloud fundamentals. Historically, when you wanted to deploy something, I've been in this industry for, I think it's about 26 years by now. So when I started out, if you wanted to deploy something, it meant taking your files, uploading them using a protocol called FTP, file transfer protocol, and you upload it to a single machine usually. That also meant that if a user in a different country, let's say someone in India, wanted to visit a site that was hosted here where I am in Sweden, you got a lot of high latency. It took time to be able to load that content and to basically have that visible on your computer. And that's an issue for users, of course. So what has happened during these 25, 26 years since I started out is that global data centers and these big hyperscalers like AWS, they've created ways for us to make this possible, to have a better experience for users, but without it having to be complicated. So right now, the more modern way where we deliver things is by using these edge networks, CDNs, where the data that I upload here comes closer to the user in the end. And we are able to then, as a user, push something to a repository somewhere using Git. We'll look at Git in just a bit. And then we have these servers that are building the content automatically. They compile it, and then they distribute these assets to a global network that is called the edge network that is closer to the end users. So it means that we have near zero load times many times for users. And that's something that everyone is expecting today. So now the focus on this is going to be how you as students and student builders can then where I do all of my development. There are other IDEs you can use. It doesn't really matter in this case. It's just what I'm using. So to begin with, I'm going to show you a very simple example of what we can do. And I mentioned that when I started out, we were using fairly simple things and we were able to push things into production so users could use them. And what we started out with was HTML, which is the hypertext language that your browser uses. So that's still in use many, many, many years later. It's just that today we usually have different ways of getting to that state, getting to the HTML state. But it doesn't mean that we should stop using it, because HTML has some huge benefits. Like I said before, users want to rely on things being fast. So they want to have your website on their phone, on their screen straight away. And HTML is great at that because it is fast and it will start displaying things straight away. So this first example is a straight up HTML website. So think of this as your About Me page, a page where you want to show off who you are to be able to share that with others so people can find you, basically. And to do this type of page, we have two components. One is the HTML site. So that is straight up HTML that just explains, in this case, who Alex Johnson, my made up student in New Delhi. So it is simple HTML, and then we've added a style sheet for this. The style sheet, CSS, it's something that came a bit later, but it's basically to design the page to make it look the way it should. And that's also fairly simple. It is JSON, as you can see, where we are then defining all of the different parts of this application. So that's all. We have an HTML page, we have CSS, we're importing the CSS, and then we just added a bunch of stuff. So this, I can now open this. I'm going to show you. Let's copy the path and just open it in my browser. Here, as you can see, this is the web page. Very straightforward. But this is the starting of what you all should be having. You should have a portfolio of something that tells people who you are. So then you can share that. You can have it every time you post something, you can link to your website. All right, so this is great. We have that locally on my computer. It is super fast because it's just HTML, but we obviously want to get this into the hands of users. So we're going to start off with the first example, and that is going to be Netlify. Let me zoom in a bit. So I went to Netlify, what is it, netlify.com, and I just signed up with a free account, and that brings me to this dashboard that we have. And one of the things that I find super cool about Netlify is just how easy it is to publish something. So like a TV chef, I've already prepared one just in case things break. It is a live demo after all, but hopefully we'll just be able to do this. So what you can do now is to just browse the files you want to upload, or you can even choose a folder. In this case, we could select those two files, the HTML and the CSS, or we can just pick the folder as well. So this is the folder, demo1 Netlify. And now I can just press upload. You can actually even drag and drop into the browser in this case. Let's click upload. Do you want to upload? All right, so let's see, uploading. Please don't refresh. Here we go, straight away. It has now deployed our website. So we've created, it creates a new project for us. And we can see that we have a name. It just came up with a name, and we have a URL. So if I click that, we can now see that I have deployed this website. If I paste it in the chat, you should all probably be able to open this page, and it should hopefully work for you as well. So that's it with Netlify. It's that easy to deploy something that you've built locally. And that's great. It's the ease of use with Netlify is one of my favorite features of it, that you can deploy something in what took it 20 seconds from when I actually opened the project site. Netlify has a bunch of other features that allows us to do much more, but this is one of the key features of it. Of course, once we want to move on, you probably don't want to have a URL that is papaya-bublanina-da, and so on and so on. You want to connect your domain to it. You can do that through Netlify. We're not going to do that now. We're going to look at that a bit later instead. But as you can see, there is an option to create a custom domain and add that. All of these platforms today have also added some sort of AI assistance. So you can actually start building things with help of AI in their platforms. Be aware that these are, you usually get some sort of credits for free, and then it'll start costing money after that. So be a bit careful once you're using that. So this is all cool. We can do this. But now then, every time I need to make a change on my website, let's say I want to change, so it's moved to Kolkata. So now I did a change locally. That obviously means that it is not going to update on my website. For Alex Johnson, this still shows that he's in New Delhi. So what you would need to do is then, once again, upload the file. It's now uploading and publishing. It stopped working. Oh, maybe I shouldn't. Let's do the entire folder again. I need the CSS as well. There we go. Luckily, it's quick. So there we go. Now it's updated. Alex Johnson is now based in Kolkata. So that's how Netlify works. But the next step then, I talked about Git, I talked about CI/CD. That would be the next step on this. Is instead of me manually doing this every time, we want to use those foundational tools that I talked about. So let me show you how that works. If we go back to projects, And instead of doing it the way I showed you before, we can actually create a new project and we can import what's called a Git repository. So we can take the code we have and we can grab it from GitHub, from GitLab, Bitbucket, or Azure DevOps. And in that way, it's going to grab it automatically every time we make a change. So let's select GitHub. And now I think it was called demo 1. There we go. Select it. Everything looks great. We can do a lot of settings. We don't need to in this case. So let's deploy. And what's happening now instead is that it's grabbing these files from GitHub where I'm storing these. So now let's try this new one. As you can see, looks the same way. These files still show New Delhi. So now if we want a new version, jumping back to my IDE, as you remember, I updated the HTML file locally to get that to actually deploy. I then also need to push this. So here you can see I have my file that's changed. And then I can add that updated my city. We're committing this change. Committing was that snapshot that I mentioned before. And now we can sync the change, meaning that we're pushing it to GitHub. And it's now pushed. And if we now jump back, see how quickly it picks it up. There we go. Straight away, it picked it up that there is a new version in GitHub, and it will then publish that. So let's open the site again, and it's now updated. So now by just doing a few more steps, selecting a GitHub repository instead, we're able to actually create this pipeline where I can take my code locally, I can update it, I can commit it, push it to GitHub. That will trigger a deployment in Netlify that then updates the website. And this also means, let's say that I deployed something that wasn't working. Well, since we have that snapshot, I can actually go back to my previous commit, the initial one where it said New Delhi in this case. But let's say that next time, maybe you're deploying something that contains a bug. Maybe there's something that stops working. Well, you're able to actually then use that snapshot history, the commits, and move back in time to something that is working. So I think that's pretty cool. So that's Netlify. And like I said, it has a lot of features, but the simplicity of it is my favorite feature when it comes to Netlify. All right, so then we've created our first website, static HTML, fast, simple, easy to use in that sense. You only need to know HTML and CSS to build your websites. I'm now going to show you the second one, because even though that's great, in many cases, we want to add more functionality to these types of portfolio websites about us that we create. So I'm going to show you my second demo. And for that one, we can use Vercel. This website is built using Next.js. And Next.js, as I mentioned before, that is one of these front-end frameworks that's built on React, which is another well-known framework, but it's created from the beginning by Vercel. So they've kind of optimized both Next.js for Vercel, but vice versa, that Vercel works really well together with Next.js. So what kind of features do these frameworks give us? Well, they allow us to, first off, we can use components that other people have created. So by simply installing components, we can add things. So that can be anything from the way the websites look to perhaps adding contact forms. It could be to have ways of showing pictures, images, listings of things, and so on. So there's this huge open source community around these frameworks that you can then use. But also you're able to create websites that are more dynamic in nature, in the sense that they can grow in ways that maybe these static ones can't really in a simple way. For instance, maybe you want to start creating blog posts. Well, using one of these frameworks allows you to easily create a bunch of blog posts without having to create individual HTML files for every post, like we would do with that first initial way of doing it. So I'm just going to walk you through exactly what this site does. So this one is a link tree. If you've ever seen a link tree site, it's basically a site that, first off, usually has some sort of about me type content, but then you add links. And that could be links to projects, it could be to blog posts, it could be to maybe your GitHub, or it could be to LinkedIn, and so on. So I've created a simple link tree using Next.js. And let me open the browser. I think I closed the wrong tab, but I'm back, people. Don't you worry. There we go. I hope you can see my screen again now. All right, so let's close the right tabs this time. There we go. Too many tabs. All right, so now we're back to my ID. So I'm first off going to open up my GitHub. See, I've created these sites and I've shared them on my GitHub account. So if you want to use any of these for your own portfolios or Linktree sites, you can easily just grab them. This one is this Next.js Linktree. So this site allows us to then create a simple Linktree website where we can list things we've done, for instance, or links to social media and so on. Once again, as a way to showcase you and allow people to easily find you and contact you and so on. So what you can do if you want to use it is you can simply grab this code, just do a clone of the repo, or you can even fork it as well. That means it automatically ends up within your GitHub account instead, and you can start using it there. So I've obviously already done this, so I can switch over to my IDE. And this is the website. This is the layout, very straightforward. It just contains the script where we are adding the body of this website. And then we have the actual page. Similar to the previous one, it contains some information about the made-up person, Alex Johnson, some information about him, and then a bunch of links. Like I said, these frameworks allows us to make things that are dynamic. So instead of me directly in this page listing all of the links, I'm instead importing the links. You can see it here. And if you look at this file, that's called links, the one we're importing, that then contains these different links. So I'm linking to a portfolio, a LinkedIn, a GitHub, and so on. These aren't actual links in this case, but just as examples. And then we can run this. Let's open. I have it open. There we go. So when I'm developing, I can run this locally. So I'm starting it using the dev command. So now that is already running locally for me. As you can see, so I'm running this locally on my machine, and this is the Linktree site. Alex Johnson. And let's say we want to make some changes to this. We can make an update to it. Let's change connect with me like that. We change this file. It automatically updates in the site. And once we're done, we can then publish this. So now, like I said, we're going to use Vercel this time. So I'm going to open up the Vercel dashboard instead. And just in the same way, I went to vercel.com, just signed up with a free account, and then I can start adding my projects. So let's add a new project. Here we go. It's very large. I've connected my GitHub to it. That is a 3-click process to just connect. And then we can select our project. Here we go. We have demo to Vercel. I'm importing it. I'm not going to change any settings. I'm trusting this platform to make the right settings based on what it sees this is. You can see that it's a Next.js site. And let's click deploy. It is now doing the deployment. You remember with Netlify, like I said, one of the benefits of it is that it's super fast because it can straight away deploy something. It takes just seconds. Vercel takes a bit longer, but this is also a more complicated site that it's using this framework, so it takes a bit longer to actually do it. Like you can see here, it has now deployed it. We've deployed a new project. It's showing a preview of the website. And we can go back to our dashboard. If we click it, it'll open the site. And in the same way, we now have a website that is globally available, and it is pushed to this edge network. So it is close to the users, even though I deployed it somewhere in the US, I believe, in this case. So now in the same way, since I connected this to Git, it means that I can do the same things. So let's say we want to make a change to our website. We connect with Alex, just updating one of the links. In the same way as before, we can now take our file, updated a link. I'm committing that, sending it to GitHub. You can see the history of my project, updated a link. And now this should, same way here, you can see, automatically it is then kicking off a new deployment. Updating a link. It is starting to do the deployment. This gives you all the logs if you want to go, especially if things break, it's easy to then see what happened. Deploying. All right, already done. So now we've deployed a new version. And we can see that it's updated. Connect with Alex, in this case, the updated text that I added. So Vercel contains a lot more than Netlify. It has a lot more features that we can use, but for these simple, somewhat simple websites, it is still very easy to use. It doesn't have to be complex. Just as you saw, I signed up, I add my Git account or connect my Git account to it, and then I select my repo and deploy it. And that's it. Then we have the website deployed. Like I said, it has a lot of different things we can do here. Obviously, these days, a lot around AI as well. So you can dive deeper into that if you want to as well. So, okay, so that was the second one. We have Netlify first, we have Vercel, and now we're going to jump into the third one, and that is AWS Amplify. So AWS Amplify is different in the sense that it is still meant to be an easy way to deploy front-end or full-stack applications, but it allows you to then make use of the rest of AWS, the other 249 services or whatever we want to use. So let's jump into that and take a look at what we have there. Closing a few more. All right, so back into our IDE. Let's close that. So I'm going to show you a portfolio site in this case. I've created one. So this is a bit more than just about me or just a few links. This is actually meant to be a way to show off some things that you've done. Let's say you've created some sample applications. Maybe you took part in a hackathon. Maybe you won something, or you've been part of running a user group. Things you want to show off. So this one is built around React. So same base framework as Next.js, but this is using something called Vite or Vite, depending on where you're from in the world, which is still a framework that allows you to build these more complex websites, but still keeping it fairly easy because you can reuse components and so on. So let's see. In the same way, I have that shared in my GitHub account. If you want to check it out, it's this one, React Portfolio. So you can just clone it, you can fork it if you want to, and then you can try it out yourself. And with all of these, like I showed, you can run them locally, so you don't have to deploy them straight away. You can work with them locally before you actually deploy. So I have that here already. It is running. So let me show you. It's that one. So this is how that one looks. So we have a bit of a header with some menu items, some information about Alex Johnson, more about me text, added a field or a place where we can add some of the skills you might have if you want to show those to people as well. And then we can add projects like this, where we can show off that we took part in a cloud resume challenge, or we created a real-time weather app, for instance. So way to show off. This one doesn't have images right now, but you can easily add them as well in the website. And then at the bottom, a way to show links, similar to the link tree, but now as part of a bigger website. So fairly straightforward website, but a way to then showcase what you've done. And this one is built, like I said, it's built with React or Vite, and we running it locally. I can work on it, develop it just like before. But now we want to deploy this. I'm done with my website, so I want to deploy it. And in this case, we're going to use Amplify for that. So this is the AWS console. Just go to the start page of it. I hope most of you have used AWS in one way or another, but the AWS console has hundreds of services. I think AWS has around 250 services or something right now. Some are complex, some are very complex, and some are easily used as well. Amplify is one of the more easily used services, I'd say. So let's go to the Amplify console. I've already cheated and deployed a bunch of different ones. I have, for instance, deployed the static portfolio. So I'm just going to walk you through how we deploy it to begin with, and then we're going to jump to the pre-deployed one, and I'm going to explain why in a bit. So what we do is create a new app, and this straight away takes us to this step-by-step wizard that we can use. And similar to some of the other ones, we can then deploy it by connecting to a Git provider, like GitHub, Bitbucket, CodeCommit, or GitLab. We can actually also connect to Amazon S3, AWS's object store, or we can even select a zip file, so we can deploy things without Git. I do not recommend to use this as a way to deploy things unless it's just for testing, because that means you manually have to do it all the time. That's kind of what we wanted to avoid. We can also start with a template. So you can start with a blank website that you can then develop over time as well. But in this case, we're going to select GitHub. I've already connected, so it should hopefully work straight away. Then I can select my repository, static one, and we can do next. It auto-detected nothing in this case. It doesn't see which framework it is, but it's guessing it needs to run npm run build to be to deploy this, which is a good guess. I'm doing next, and then I can click save and deploy. So let's do that. Now it's going to connect to Git. It's going to fetch all the files from GitHub. It is then going to start deploying this application. And the reason why I don't want to show you this now is that it takes a while. It's going to take probably 5, 6, 7 minutes before it's actually fully deployed. So that's why I pre-deployed one. We can actually check that. So this is the one we're deploying now. This is the one I deployed a bit earlier. If we open that, we can see that it is already deployed, which is great. So just like with the other ones, we've now deployed it through Git. We can open, and the website works. We now have a domain that it's connected to, so we can start using it. And just like with the other one, we can then make updates locally. We push those to Git, and it will then update the site. Super cool. But now I want to show you one of the real benefits of using Amplify, and that is when we want to do things that are a bit more. We want to make use of other AWS services as well. So that is using the same portfolio website, just that I've extended it a bit by using Amplify as part of the website. So it is still that Vite React website. I've just extended it, and I'm going to show you what that means. So I've installed the Amplify libraries to this website, and then I've added what's called a backend. So what we see in the browser, that's the front end, the things that are visible. And so far, our applications have been front end only. It's just more or less HTML. But here we can actually add a backend as well. And what we're adding are 3 things. We are adding authorization. So we're able to actually log in to the website by creating users, and they can log in. We're using that to be able to have someone to log in and actually edit the website. we are adding data. And data means that we are adding a DynamoDB table. That is our database where we're storing things. And what we want to store here are the portfolios. So we can add items into the portfolio. And then we're adding storage. And storage in this case means Amazon S3, the object store. So we can upload images as well that are connected to that. And then we define our backend, that it should use auth, data, and storage. Once we've done this, we then obviously have to connect these pieces to the front end of it. So if we go back to the actual website, we can see, let's see, for instance, created a login page where we can sign in as a user, created, let's see, what can we show here, where we are fetching projects. So it's connecting to that database to be able to fetch the projects to show them. And it's using not only DynamoDB, it's actually using another service in between called AppSync, where is how it's connecting to the database. But the thing is, with Amplify, we don't really have to care about it. We're just adding a data store for our application, and then Amplify connects it with AppSync and connects it to DynamoDB for us. And then we add the additional parts as well. So we're able to have a form where we can add a new item and so on and so on. So now I want to show you what this looks like. So let's jump back. I've already deployed it. Once again, it takes 5, 6, 7 minutes, or maybe even more. So I want to show you one that's already deployed. So this is demo 3 Amplify, and I have it deployed here. So as you can see, the website looks the same. The difference is that we're not listing any projects in this view. But that is because this one is now connected to that database, and we don't have anything stored in the database. So I've added a way of logging in as a user. So I'm going to log in. To type the password correctly. Here we go. Now I'm logged in. And then you can see a button pops up that says add project. So let's click add project and just quickly add something. I'm sure I have some sort of image. There we go. My project. Short description. Full description. Bullet. Tag 1, tag 2. And let's just add a URL as well. There we go. Add project. And now what happens is that my front-end application is connecting to the backend, storing, uploading the image. It is also storing in the DynamoDB table. Oh no. Let's see. I have it connected to the wrong one. Sorry, my bad. Let's use this one instead. All right, so it is then connecting to the backend, and it is storing the data for us there. Let's see, incorrect username. Oh no, I don't remember my username. And it will then upload that to our, let me show you, to our data store. I'm in the Amplify console. And here you can see, this is what I stored. It's storing my project, short description, the full description, and so on and so on. And it's also uploading the image, storing it in our S3 bucket. So there's the image. And all of this is with the help of Amplify. I don't have to know all of these different services. I don't have to know exactly how to connect these because I'm using that Amplify framework. So I'm able to create a website that is much more dynamic with the help of this. So Amplify, besides the things that we can get from Netlify and Vercel, we're able to then add everything else that AWS has and connect that to our website. Once again, all of these examples are on my GitHub account. The Linktree one, the very simple one showing links, the React portfolio, the static one, and then the one that you can connect to Amplify. And they all work in the same way. You can just connect it to Git and deploy, and it will then automatically create these things for you, no matter if you use the static portfolio one or the Amplify one. And then based on that, you can continue and build whatever you want, adjust the way it looks. You can add new features. You can remove things you don't want to have there, and so on and so on. So these are just starting off points that you can use. All right, so with that, I'm going to jump back here and just quickly summarize. I think Netlify is great because it has that super simple way of deploying websites, and it's super fast. Vercel is one of the best things you can use if you want to use these modern JS frameworks, but Amplify is what allows you to scale out your application. Didn't even talk about AI, but you can obviously easily connect AI features into your app as well through Amplify. And then best practice, well, make sure to set up automated preview environments so you can create feature branches. You can have your development environment and deploy that as well, so you don't always deploy into the production environment of your websites. You can add custom domains easily as well. And if you do it through AWS, for instance, you automatically get SSL certificates, so you have secure connections to the websites as well.